All right, guys. Today I'm going to talk about why the Utah Jazz need to think about trading up in this draft. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, before we get started, if you're a Utah Jazz fan, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, like the video, and go watch the other videos. I'm putting up videos every day or as often as I can, Monday through Friday. Guys, today I want to talk about the Utah Jazz, this upcoming draft. It's a big draft for Utah. I think even though this draft is not a quote-unquote star-laden draft or has a lot of big-time players in it, there are some really good players. I think there's one player, especially in this draft, if Utah has a chance to get that player, it could really help them down the road to becoming a championship contender. That player is Stephon Castle. That he is a player that I would compare to Jrue Holiday, someone who handles the ball, plays incredible defense. You look at what Jrue Holiday is doing for Boston in this finals series. He's been almost, you could consider him the MVP of this finals. He's been fantastic. And Stephon Castle is that same type of player. Not only is he big, 6'6", 6'7". I mean, he's 6'7" in shoes, which is incredible. He considers himself a point guard. He can handle, he can pass, extremely smart. But what makes him even more impressive is the character, the work ethic, the absolute effort on every single play defensively. Even when UConn was up 30, one thing you can count on with Stephon Castle is he's going to go out there and defend his heart out. He does not care. And you want that type of player on the Jazz. And you can see what Jrue Holiday is doing with these Boston Celtics. Stephon Castle, with his ability to handle the ball, he considers himself a point guard. At least that's what his camp is saying. Would be perfect next to Keontae George, because then all of a sudden, if Utah has Keontae George as kind of that Kyrie Irving type player playing off of your superstars, that's perfect. You put Stephon Castle on there, a defensive specialist who looks like he might be the best defensive player in this draft and arguably the best point guard prospect with his size and physical gifts and athleticism, everything he brings. He's just the perfect type of player to bring and play next to Keontae George. Now, the other reason that Utah might want to do this, one thing they have said, and I've talked to Michael Scotto about this, and I believe Tony Jones has talked about this too in his latest Athletic article. The Utah Jazz have 3 picks in this draft, and they have 3 picks next year. And I don't know if in the next 2 years, Utah wants to have 6 rookies in camp. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Is there a world where Utah can do, let's say Stephon Castle falls to 6. And a lot of these different mocks, I've actually been part of 2 of them, have had Stephon Castle fall to 6 to Charlotte. Is there a team that would take something from Utah, one of their veterans, maybe a Colin Sexton or something like that, and then also multiple firsts that the Jazz are willing to give up to move up and maybe get to 4 or 5 or something like that and get Stephon Castle on their team? There's a couple teams at the top that are contenders. I'm looking at you, Houston, that might be willing to take the Jazz picks or take a Jazz veteran. Now, that's what I say. If you can give the Jazz late first in this 2024 draft, and maybe you think about giving the 2025 Minnesota Timberwolves pick as well, and you can give like 2 or 3 firsts, move up and get Stephon Castle, a guy you know the Jazz will love, and then next year you'll see how good you are. You can possibly drop out if you need to, so you can try to go for Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey. Or if Stephon Castle hits in a big way, then he complements what you have, depending on what the Jazz decide to do with Lauri Markkanen. But that's the type of move I want to see, because I just don't think Utah wants to come into these training camps with 6 rookies. I know they want to have a chance to draft the best player and potentially draft the star, but a lot of these picks, what you're doing is you're using them as currency to trade, to move up, to get that guy you really love. We know that Utah tried to trade up last year. They were trying to move up and get one of those players like Bilal Coulibaly. It didn't happen. But they can do it this year, because this year it's a draft that doesn't have very obvious superstars. So if the Jazz give their number 10, their late first, and like a Colin Sexton, would someone like the Houston Rockets be willing to do that and give the Jazz a really nice pick so they can go out and make sure they get Stephon Castle? Possibly. Would Charlotte be interested in something like that? Maybe they're not too worried about what they pick at 6, and they're happy to get the 10 pick, get some more assets and a nice player, and Utah can get a player that will develop with them down the road. Now, people will say, and every single time you talk about Stephon Castle, they'll talk about his shooting. Well, in the combine, he shot really well. And a guy that works that hard and that kind of character, I'm going to bet on that's going to get that shooting up to a high level. We know that he's a big-time gamer. He's a winner. He's a part of that UConn team that just was absolutely dominant this year. It's something the Jazz need to think about. All right, guys, that's all I got. Tonight was just about whether they should trade up or not. If you're new here, make sure you like and subscribe. I will talk to you next time.